Welcome to Living by Oak Values. Gary, the superior mailman, and I will guide you through aligning your actions with your core beliefs. We are excited to share stories, insights, and values that guide our lives. Whether you're a longtime listener or just new here, welcome. Visit northmancoaching.com for your free toolbox and updates. Let's dive in. Happy listening.
And we're back, folks. Round 3 with Paul and Matt. Last time we cracked open the vault on stepping outside your comfort zone, and if you thought that was a game changer, just wait. Today we bring it home. We are closing out this powerful trilogy on living an ambitious life, diving headfirst into the unstoppable drive, smashing through obstacles, and let's be real, those moments when ambition has us biting off more than we can chew. So buckle up. This episode is packed with wisdom, laughs, and the firepower you need to chase your biggest goals. Let's get after it.
So if you were to go, can you say that you really lived the life you wanted to live?
You know, that's right. No, you know what? I ask myself this question a lot, and I'll tell you why. So that's a really good question. So, and this relates directly to it. Actually, I have it right here. So, my family and I had moved to Las Vegas, and I loved it out there. It's fucking beautiful. I was a firearm instructor out there. I was loving life. But I had to take care of my folks. They lived here in Florida. And my dad got in some kind of wreck, and it was like 6 p.m. here. And and I needed to have my younger brother go take care of it and whatever, right? So I said to my wife, babe, we're going to have to move back, until something happens. And so I said, okay. So I called my younger brother. And he's like I don't know what your age difference is, but my younger brother was 14 months younger than me. And so he was my buddy my whole life. And he is a hippie. So when you talk about like living the life you want, this is directly, and bear with me, I'll get there and I'll tell you kind of the deal. But so I live vicariously through him. Like he was a hippie. He used to work with a band called Phish. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but they used to call my fucking house. And I said, 3 a.m, they call my house high as hell. I'm like, hey, listen, Trey Anastasia, you call my fucking house again, I'm going to find you and kill you. Nothing happens after that. But anyway, this is kind of like restored my faith in some things I'll go over with you guys as I go through this. But anyway, I say, Howie, I need you to do me a favor. I'm packing this truck up. I need you to fly out here in Vegas. I'll fly you out. I'll feed you. And I need you to help me drive this truck back to South Florida from Las Vegas. And then I was going to fly the day after that back to Vegas, pack up my wife's car with the final little things with my kids after they graduated, 5th grade. And then we were all going to leave in her car and come back here. Okay. So fine. So this is my best friend now. Remember that. Because he's a baby, 14 months younger than me. Right. So I hadn't seen him in like 2.5 years. Hadn't even seen him. Okay. Flies out. I pick him up at the airport. Good to see him. Take him in and out. He'd never been. We go literally. Hugs my wife, hugs my kids. We pack up this fucking truck. And for 3 days, we got to drive, didn't get a hotel room, slept in the damn truck and blah, blah, blah. And he told me, I got to spend time with my buddy. I hadn't seen him. I'm in my 40s now. We've been living life, right? John Lennon said, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. But I had 3 days. He told me that I was his hero, and it was unbelievable.
3 days.
So 3 days in a truck, 2,800 miles. But check this. So then the last thing I think about in this whole thing is, so we get there, and anybody that tells you there is no difference between a dry heat and a wet heat, they are crazy. Wet heat is insane. I was at 118 degrees, and I'm gonna have my top down in Las Vegas, but 95 with 100% humidity was bananas. So I'm unloading this truck, and the last 2 things in the truck were these custom beds I had made for the kids that weighed a zillion pounds. And he says, "Oh shit!" He goes, "Paul, I gotta go. Love you, and good seeing you, and I gotta go." So I'm like, "All right, fuck. Oh, thanks, buddy." I give him a hug. So he had a manual. I still hear it. A manual transmission. I hear it. He's rewinding. And I hear the brake go off. And I hear him say, "Fuck it, they can wait." And he comes running up the ramp, helps me put these 2 things back. I put them in the store to close it up. I'm sweating. I was going to my in-laws to return the truck and get my car and whatever. And I had changed my phone number. But I get a text message. And it says, "Paul, this is Neil. That was my best friend. I got your number from such and such. Howie had to be rushed to the hospital. He was discovered by his girlfriend in front of his computer, 44 years old. Holy fuck. So I borrow my father-in-law's car, 140 miles an hour on the highway. I get there, and he's gone. And I laid with him. And all I thought was, to this day, my thoughts were, obviously I'm crushed that he's gone every day, but all I could think about when I saw him there was, you're finally at peace. And when I say someone lived their life, the amazing thing, and it's a thing that I believe in a lot. And it goes to, I think that you were talking about this a little earlier, Gary, about this thing where we have to overcome and believe that we're worthy, maybe. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I think about was not only that he's at peace, but I decided that we were going to take his ashes and we were going to bring them to his favorite places. So that summer, me, the wife, and the kids, we fucking drove 26,000 miles around the country. I left his ashes at Yankee Stadium. I left him at his favorite venues. One of them is in Denver. It's called Dick's. I left them at Wrigley Field. There was one in Washington State called The Gorge. And the last one was in upstate New York at a place called SPAC. It's probably not far from you, actually, Gary. It's kind of like the New York Fairgrounds up near like a Rochester-ish, like over there somewhere. Yeah. But it was his favorite venue, right? And we went there, and we did that because we went to a Phish concert there. I took my kids, and I have pictures, and I have stickers here. I got them. I wish you could see these stickers, but his famous pose was, he would do this wherever he was. Like I'm in this one. I got one here. He's in Madison Square Garden. But the outpouring of him, I think that the thing it really does go back to what we were talking about earlier is, when we talk about ambition and trying to get to a certain level, I think the thing that I remember the most is, somebody said something about don't send them flowers when they're dead, right? Like, let them fucking know you appreciate them when you're alive. And so my brother didn't know how many people knew who he was, how many people loved him. So to this day, blows my mind. We went to see Phish, but the day before, 2 days before, the Grateful Dead was there. And he used to work with a lot of those guys. He was offered the tour manager gig for Bob Weir, but he knew he was too much of a vagabond to see other bands. He couldn't do that. But they came and buried his ashes with me. John Mayer and, Trey Anastasia, these people came and were like crying. And they showed me text messages of these people. Bro, did you hear Howie passed? You knew Howie? Oh, who doesn't know Howie? And so people were sending me pictures of gigs happening and like far off places where the fucking band put stickers that somebody made them. It's him like this, and it says hashtag, this is how we do it. His name was Howie. This is how we do it. And it's on like stages in fucking Montana and Georgia. And so it's a shame that, especially men, we can't tell people what they meant to us while they're here, And I think that I just decided, I'm not going to hold grudges. And if there's someone that meant something to you, even if it's never going to be what it was, like, life's too fucking short to carry that grudge and because ultimately, if they meant something to you, hopefully you learned something and you grew from that. But like carrying on to that stuff, like I just realized life's too short. I don't take shit seriously anymore. I let a lot more shit slide off my back. But I think that has helped me in terms of like my why and the ambition part is I know what I'm working for. There was a movie scene that strikes me. I don't know if you guys saw Cinderella Man. You ever see Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe? It's a true story of James J. Braddock, the boxer.
The boxing one?
Yep. We played it back in the 30s.
Yep.
Do you remember the scene in the movie where they asked him, like he had come over through all kinds of shit, through the Depression, he had broken hands, he couldn't fight forever, was living on death row, was on welfare, and he had gone through that. And so when the reporter asks him, Jim, you've kind of been here before. What's different this time? And he looks at the guy and he says, this time I know what I'm fighting for. And the reporter, who was a reporter, so he hadn't really gone through the depression, he literally picks up his glass and says, milk. So the perspective and the why changed, right? Which is a crazy thought that blows your mind, right? His why before that was probably a totally different thing than what it became after realizing how fragile this is. Like, we can go from here to fucking living on Survivor Island, and now your goal that was just to make $1 million and to get laid twice a month and to go to Jamaica and maybe have a good time. Now it's like, hey, I could deal with an apple. The appreciation of what it is. So, I kind of, hopefully I know I go on sometimes, but like, hang on.
The answer to the question.
No, hang on. So the part I was getting, this is the part that comes to it. So, and this is the part that really to this day kind of gets me. So I'm not a super religious guy. Okay. And I don't mean religious. I mean, God and I, we're good. I don't need some guy in a coat telling me how to have that relationship. Right. So let's get that there. But, my grandfather, I was adopted. My grandfather, entire family was killed in the Holocaust. My great aunt is actually in the movie Schindler's List. And so he founded this temple not far from Shea Stadium. Okay. And it was there for 60 years and his name's on the wall. And I remember when he died, he was a great man. They held the doors open. Right. Well, the next year, we were poor. My dad couldn't afford to go. They wouldn't let my father pray because he couldn't pay. And I saw that at like 8 years old. So organized religion to me was kind of gone, right? So this ends that story that I was going back to, and I apologize for digressing. So I get the thing. He's there. I had to arrange his arrangements and everything, and I had to get on it. So meanwhile, I had his phone, which was at like 60%, and I had weird phone calls coming from people that was weird. So nobody could get in his phone. Right? Couldn't get in. But I had it. And I get on the plane and I'm tired. Obviously, I have to go back to Las Vegas, tell my kids that their uncle died and drive back to Florida. But here's what happens. To this day, we talked earlier about confidence and he said it's faith in something. Well, faith is something that you believe that you can't see, right? Mm-hmm. So I get on the plane and I'm 6'4", so I sit in the aisle all the time. But as I get in the plane, there's a young Mormon mom there with a toddler that she had bought the seat in the middle for, and she has an infant. Okay. And I'm on the plane and I look at the toddler sitting there. And I knew the passcode to my brother's phone. I didn't guess it. I didn't think I knew it. I knew it. And one try, I opened his phone. And hundreds of messages from, the Allman Brothers Band. Howie, is it you okay? Is it? I heard. Please let it not be true. From these fucking famous people. And all I remember is, the plane takes off. I turn the phone off, and I'm sitting there. And I'm looking at them, and I'm just struck that something happened that I can't explain, that I'm grateful for. So that's how that ended.
Huh. That's it's deep, and that's awesome for your brother that he actually lived that life. Like that's my goal.
He lived and died the way he would want him.
Mm-hmm.
44 years old is nobody packed 44 years into that. And he looked like he had been ridden hard and put away wet. I mean, sleeping on the fucking ground and touring for 25 years, like never took care of himself. They said that when they did the autopsy, before they told me that he had the single worst heart that they'd ever seen of someone under 60. And Wow. It was genetic. I was adopted, but my mother, had a quadruple bypass. It was like 98% blockages in both of her carotid arteries. And he just got the genetic shit bag. So, but I mean, I would say that if I died tomorrow, and obviously as you get to a certain age, this does cross your mind. Yesterday was their birthday and I'm looking around and I'm like, you know what? The fact that I've gotten them to where I know that if something happened to me today, they have the tools to go out there and, and honestly, if you guys ever met them, you'd be fucking astounded that they're 20.
Mm.
They grew up with me, but they speak like 35-year-old people of the earth. Like they, as Matt, it's an amazing thing. And they literally were working with us. And it just got to the point where they're going to school, and we realized that I want them to go enjoy life. So they both got to, like, my one son's working at Disney. They help us here when we want them to, and when they're off. They know this is like, film is going to be their business eventually, right? But we want them to be out with the public instead of like a bunch of fucking hobbits, working 12 hours a day, under indoor conditions. So
I don't know how you did it. Yeah, I don't think there's a magic way, but
there is a magic way.
You're fortunate. You're very lucky because
no,
his
no
kids
luck.
are good. Like when you say you want your kids to be like, you want to raise good kids.
Yeah.
Like those are good kids. Like I did bad things, I did.
But
they shouldn't have. They're smarter than me.
Well,
they wouldn't.
But more is caught than taught. So that's how you raise them. Is that like I've never.
They don't hang out with bad people, and I think a lot of it is. You are who you hang out with.
No, but that's it. So
their friends are good.
But I think it goes back to like we said, is that they learn their core values.
Yes.
When they're certain ages.
Yeah.
And so with them,
yeah,
like I know who they are. The craziest, they were preemies.
And he's lucky they're twins. You have two birds with one stone.
Well, you think you're lucky. Think you're lucky. And growing up, they
company. You're
that's it.
All day long.
Yeah, we never had a problem like with school. Like they always have a buddy, right? That's the thing I used to say to them. And actually, after my brother passed, we were like driving, and they were only like 10 or 11, and they were arguing. And I remember, I got so pissed. I pulled over on the side of the road. He's the only one you got. I said, my fucking brother, your uncle, just died, and I would give fucking both my legs for 15 more minutes with him. So if I ever hear you saying, there's nothing wrong with arguing, but if I ever hear you saying something that is deliberately going to fucking hurt him, I'm going to whip your fucking asses. Do you understand? Yes. I said, also, you guys argue about stuff. From now on, if you guys are arguing for more than a couple minutes, I'm going to assume that you need me to come and solve the argument. And you might not like my resolution. So, are we clear? To this day, they argue and it gets vicious. And I'll say, hey guys, you need my help? Immediately, they shut right up. So they share a car. I bought them a brand new car, and they share it because it's teaching them that they have to kind of plan. It works out great. They argue sometimes about it. And I'll hear them and I'll say, hey, are we arguing about the car? I said, I can take care of this right now. No. It's an amazing thing. And honestly, I feel blessed, but I just think that more is caught than taught, right? They're going to do what you do, not what you say. And that's why that whole thing about, one of the coolest things I saw once was, and I know it's getting long. I don't mind it, guys. I've enjoyed this. So it's up to you guys. But
whatever.
I saw this amazing interview with kind of a weird actor. You know that guy, the really raspy, what's his, he was the guy who played like the gay brother in Mrs. Doubtfire. Like, oh, they went crazy. He played the guy in Independence Day. For $400 an hour, you can put me through to his house in the Hamptons. You know who he is? He's the gay guy from like the Birdcage or like.
Yes.
Anyway, I saw an interview with him that blew my mind about that whole thing about decisions and judgment and kind of how people see you. He was on one of those like that Bravo show where the questioner asks him, have you ever had an incident in your life where you weren't certain or something happened that caused a conscience problem? He goes, yes. He said, I was offered a very lucrative role, but deep inside, I didn't know if it would put a bad spin on my name. So I had lunch with my father, and he said, my father set me straight in 4 minutes. He said, I told him about it. I told him how much money it was. It was a life-changing situation for me. It would have been a huge boost for my career. And I said to him, Dad, I can't give you the specifics, but basically here's the deal. I'm scared that it'll have a negative effect on the family, my name, my reputation. And the father simply said to him, Harvey Firestein is the guy's name. Firestein, that's his name. But he said, my dad simply looked at me. He goes, if in your heart, you know that it's not right, then don't fucking do it. No matter the money. He goes, and that's when you know that you've taught the kids. Because I think that as a parent, the only thing you could do, hopefully, is to teach them right from wrong. And all of the rest of the decisions of their life will extrapolate, right? If they know right from wrong, they'll make this decision. And I think that like when his dad says, he goes, if you know, and there's no middle ground, like we all know when something's not on the level, or we have our gut. He goes, if you feel like it's wrong, just don't do it. Don't even think about a question. The answer is within 3 seconds, you know immediately yes or no, this is no good. And he's right. Think about that. You know right away if it's something you should be doing or not doing. And as men, we're stupid most of the time, and we do the thing. And if the internet existed when I was growing up, I wouldn't be on this podcast. So just saying. So, but yeah, guys, it's been a lot of fun going over this stuff, because how often do you get to talk to other intelligent dudes?
Yeah.
Yeah, not often. We don't.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
I know we got to end this, but real quick on that fatherhood thing and your kids, we also did almost a year ago, we did a fatherhood course for a bunch of guys. And I one thing I did say in that class was that as much as you try your best, this doesn't really apply to you because your kids are 20 and you're alive and they live with you. But it does apply actually, because if you did a bad job, you can't go back and fix it.
Yep.
No.
You will see, and it's according to what you just said, you did a good job. But if you did not, how could you go back and fix that? You can't.
Well, and that's where the resentments start.
You have to live with that. I mean, if
you know what I find?
You would have no choice but to live with it. If you fucking didn't do a good job, and now that you did 20, you just have to live with it. In fact, you did a bad job.
Well,
right. But the question was asked, like, how do you know that you'll never know until it's too late?
Well, but I think
they're
that's
not going to know.
No, but that's
They're
the
going to
thing.
know you did your job too. So it's not.
That's the thing. The kids know. For me, so show up, ask questions. The child needs to see that you care, because if you don't make it a priority, they won't either. When I was a senior in high school, I had these 2 Indian friends, and I was gifted. I used to show up and get 100 on the test. It was easy for me, from an early age. But I remember I used to go, "Oh, why don't you come play handball or football or baseball with us?" These 2 Indian kids, and they said to me, both of them, they turned to me. He goes, "Mr. Paul." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Where we come from, education's not free. You Americans," and he pointed at me, "you Americans take shit for granted." He goes, "But here's what's going to happen." And they were brothers. He goes, "We're here for one thing, to make our parents proud, to use your educational system so that we can go back and help our own country." And that's why when you talk to people, if they're being honest, like I have.
So, just favorite saying that I got when I first got through a divorce, I was like, "Hey guys, how do I be a great father to my daughter when I'm," and they said, "Your behavior is your legacy. And you have to keep that in your mind." And it stuck through me for all these years. And is that I have to show my daughter the right behavior. And that will last for generations. Not just to my daughter, but to Gary, to you, to everybody else. And that's why we do these podcasts, is because this is the legacy we are leaving to other people.
Oh, that's no doubt, man. And I think, listen, that's deep too. And I believe that, especially with girls. I deal with it to this day. My wife was her mom and her birth dad divorced when she was 5. He was like a gambling guy, not a good dude. But her dad used to work with her and has been around her since she's 5. But to this day, again, from the therapy thing we did, from like 3 to 5, it would be that, "Yeah, Daddy's coming to get you." They'd get her dressed up in the nice. This was the 70s and 80s. So it would be the Mary Jane shoes and the little dress, and go out and sit on the stoop waiting for Daddy, who never shows up. So to this day, we've been together for almost 30 years. Like, we get into an argument, she's like thinking, "Are you going to leave? Is he leaving? Is he leaving? Is he leaving?" And it's crazy. It drives me bananas, because even though I understand where it's coming from, it's kind of like, I feel like I've earned the benefit of the doubt, that I'm not leaving out of here. But those are the behaviors, though, that come from a father and a daughter, and so I feel like, we had twins, they were preemies, and I wanted I wanted my wife to have a daughter because she's her mother's only child, and that relationship is unbelievable. The relationship with a daughter is so different because I watched there's a song. If you guys listen to it as dads of girls, write this down. You'll be crying in 3 minutes after you get off this fucking call.
Oh God.
But it's a song by Brad Paisley, and basically is the man he didn't have to be. Okay. And that one, and there's one called Highway 20 Ride by Zach Brown Band. That'll get your ass. If Highway 20 Ride, listen, I'm with my kids, and that part at the end when he says, and if you drive, and what's he something about and think about my life and wonder why. The part at the end when he says, if you smile when you think of me, just know that it was the pleasure of my life to be your father. It gets me to this moment. It gets me. But that song, "The Man He Didn't Have to Be" by Brad Paisley, is unbelievable.
All right, Paul. We won't hold you up anymore.
Guys, thank you this was definitely encompassed like every value in that box, and I think it was great.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys, and would be more than happy to join you guys again if you ever want me to. It's been a pleasure. You guys have a blessed night, okay, guys?
All right, thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt's gonna say something.
Wow, that has been an epic trilogy. Tune in next week for another great guest and a brand new value. If these topics resonated with you and you'd like to dive deeper, we'd love to hear from you. Share your story and connect with us by booking a free session at northmancoaching.com. And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. We're grateful to have you on this journey with us. If you've enjoyed this show, don't forget to subscribe to Living by Oak Values. And if you're feeling generous, leave us a review. Your support helps us continue these important conversations. For more updates, exclusive content, join our Facebook group, Northman Legacy Crew. Follow us on YouTube and TikTok, or visit our northmancoaching.com. We'll be back next week for another powerful episode, so stay tuned. Until then, keep living your values and embracing the journey. Take care and stay authentic.